What's up, Flobo? What's up, the world? It's Wassup Flobo, episode 10. I am enjoying life the only way a guy like myself on a Saturday morning, it's about 8 minutes to noon doing this live, can. This is my studio, aka my bedroom. Thank you so much for checking out this episode and all the other episodes. If you have not checked out the podcast I'm working on called New Amsterdam Radio, another episode dropped today. Just recorded it fresh out the kitchen, fresh out the oven. Please take a minute to check that out. I'd be greatly appreciated if you do. Leave a 5-star review and all that stuff. And like, comment, subscribe on this show because apparently YouTube doesn't like you unless you have 1,000 subscribers. So please do. Please do. Today, I was thinking about what I wanted this episode to be about. I had an episode planned for yesterday, and I called an audible, and I did the How to Be the MC kind of like wrap up of that. So, and I was going to go back to that, or I was going to do something else. And I decided something else. Make sure things are lighthearted. We're going to do a little bit of story time here. I want to tell you that even though I do a bunch of other things, which you can find if you Google me, I'm not saying it just to brag, but I like to consider myself a comedian first, even though I am more visible as a DJ in Southern California because I have to feed that beast and I have to do photos and shake hands to be relevant and all that stuff to vendors and other clients. Even though I write, even though I host, comedy is what I like to do. That is the passion for the big dream at the end of the tunnel, which was another episode altogether. If I do another episode of Big Dreams, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But until then, I just want to say that I consider myself a comedian first. I know it's odd in a world, especially here in Los Angeles, where everyone has 10 different jobs or 3 different jobs, 3 different hustles. You don't meet just an actor anymore. It's an actor / comedian, actor / musician, actor / rapper, whatever. Well, I guess you can be a rapper and a musician. That's not mutually exclusive, but you get the idea. My journey is about 5.5 years in the game. Everyone says that at year 10, everything turns into high gear. My journey started in 2014. Won't forget it. It was August 10th, 2014. Live at the Comedy Store was the first time I ever did stand-up. But let's take a little step before then. What happened was I'd always talked about being a comic. I always wanted to do it. I had a bit of a near-death experience, and when I thought I was going to die, I had 2 regrets, which is odd because usually people say, I have no regrets. And then people go, oh, but that, I have 10 billion regrets. But I had 2 regrets. And the 2 of them were not being able to ride a motorcycle, which I eventually got the license. I haven't gone riding in a long time, but I got the license. And never trying comedy. So hearing that, for my birthday, about 6 months later, I got a voucher to go to a comedy training class in downtown LA. So yes, my journey started with the class. I wish I had a cool backstory like, yeah, man, I was delivering groceries to a local comedy store and the guy thought I was hilarious to put me on stage. No, it's not like that at all. I took a class. It was 6 weeks with the fantastic instructor, Adam Barnhart, and the graduation, if you will, was 3 minutes at the world famous Comedy Store. So if you guys don't really know this, when it comes to comedy, there are very, very few hallowed grounds of entertainment. The Comedy Store is being one of them. Maybe Caroline's is another one in New York, or the Comedy Cellar, if you want to be that kind of like left of center thing. But the Comedy Store is a big deal. And getting 3 minutes as a guarantee of your first time doing comedy, that was huge. That was huge. And even though comedy was a dream, I was still willing to check it out, suss it out. Maybe it might be a cool hobby. Like I podcast almost every week on New Amsterdam Radio. I get like 8 downloads or 12 downloads a week. It's not my job. It's a hobby, right? So comedy can be a hobby. There was a friend of mine I let slip that was like, hey, man, I want to know more about this comedy show you're doing. And I go, no problem. And so I made a Facebook group so she can just like see and she can invite her boyfriend and it'd be an easier thing, exchange. Not sure why this didn't text her, but I thought doing a Facebook event would have been great. Should have been private, but it wasn't. It was public. And what happened was the most beautiful and the most strangest thing. 17 of my friends showed up that first night. 17 friends of mine showed up that first night. People thought I was a big deal at the Comedy Store. They're like, oh, who is this Flobo guy? Being able to draw so many people. It was funny because I had a lot of promoters that come to me afterwards, hey, do my show, do my show, do my show. Because they thought I had some kind of bona fide following, but it was my first time doing comedy. Was I nervous? I was nervous the entire day up until they called my name for two reasons. One, it's like a gunshot. When you can be nervous all day and then someone goes, hit the music, you got to go out there and just give them everything. Wow, you know. The second reason is the Comedy Store is very, very honest. They have a very specific, they know what they like, they know what they don't like. And the guy before me kind of bombed. So you imagine watching, being all nervous and watching someone bomb. And it was like this like super dip into nervousness. Like, oh my gosh, they can boo you. They can not like you, into this whole like, well, can't be worse than that guy. You know? So in a way, I'm kind of glad he bombed. So they called my name, went out like a shot. I think you can still find the video online somewhere. Those 3 minutes felt like an eternity. I thought I was trying to be avant-garde. You know, I used to watch all the other comedians out there, how they would walk and sashay across the stage with the microphone cord. The stage at the Comedy Store, we're in the belly room. So there's 3 rooms at the Comedy Store. There is a main room, there is the original room, and then there's the belly room. Sidebar, the original room is like the hollow ground within the hollow ground. That's where all the comics got their start in the high days of the 70s and 80s. The main room is the big theater, holds like 300 people. If you get it filled, it's amazing. The belly room is like a small intimate affair. That's where Roast Battle happens. So if you watch Roast Battle, that's the venue. That's where Chappelle did the Bird Equanimity. Whatever the small one was when he was on the chair and the blue curtain behind him, that was the belly room of the Comedy Store. So the stage is like, I don't know, 8 by 4, you know? So I was walking back and forth trying to do my impression of what a comedian does and using the space. But since the stage was so small, it just came off as me being nervous, which I ironically was not nervous when I got on stage. So everyone was like, oh man, I know you were nervous. You were pacing back and forth. Like, no. I was cool. The jokes themselves were fine. I think they were way better than a first time comic should have, but I would not say they were good. You know, it was definitely me really studying and trying to write and trying to make it the best show possible. And it was a lot of fun. Some friends came out, we took photos afterwards, and people asked if I was going to do it again. I was like, oh, I don't know. But it was the biggest high I was on. And it's funny because the biggest high I was on, 3 days later, I had my first, and up until this point, the worst bombing I ever had. And I'll tell that bonus story too. I know I promised everyone I'll have these shows under 10 minutes, but it's not going to happen today. The first time I bombed was actually the second time I was ever on stage. So I went on stage the first time Sunday, August 10th, 2014. I won't forget that date. Unfortunately, the day after, comedy legend Robin Williams had passed away. He had I think the official word is death by suicide, right? You don't commit suicide anymore. So death by suicide, that was the 11th. That was the Monday. On that Wednesday, so that would be the 13th or whatever, I was still high from Sunday. I was like, oh man, I performed at the Comedy Store. They called my name on a loudspeaker. People cheered and laughed. I took pictures. This is like that video game where they gave you all the power-ups in the first level, you know, and you're like, oh man, this is great. And then they go, let's go back to the beginning. And they strip everything down. And you're like, no. So by Wednesday, I was like, look, man, no team has ever made the playoffs by playing one game. You got to go back out there. And I went to a club. It's called Flappers in Burbank, which is officially, I would say, my home club. I perform there more than anywhere else, even though I should perform more in general. I'm working on that, 2020. So I drive out to Flappers, and they had a midnight mic, and it goes from 11 to 1, and you put your name in the hat, and they put your name out there. Now, I know this now, that a mic is not the same as a book show. But at the same time, I wanted to see if I was funny without my friends. So it was this thing where it's like, oh man, the mic's gonna be great. You just go and show up. I'm gonna make the whole room laugh. I'm gonna be great. So what happened was, I put my name in the hat, and I'm getting picked super late. Like people are going ahead of me. People came after me, put their name in the hat. They got picked before me. I'm sitting there kind of frustrated. I'm ready to go. Also, before I even get into this, I have this weird thing about not having the same material every time. So I used to write 3 to 5 minutes of material every single time my first 7 months on stage, which is great because all my friends are like, oh man, I get something new. But one, it totally burns you out as a writer. And two, you're still not good. So I'm doing all this content, but the mentality, the thought process isn't as good. So I had this brand new joke I want to try. And it was actually a joke about well, he wasn't president then. It was a joke about Donald Trump, right? It was supposed to be about him. If Batman were real, it would be him because he's a billionaire, and then but it'd be odd because he can't put the cowl over his hairpiece, and his catchphrase wouldn't be "I am vengeance." It'd be like "Joker, you're fired." I actually retired all of my Donald Trump jokes when he became president because attacking a reality star is a different kind of comedy. You can do that all day. Like everyone has Kardashian jokes, but when someone becomes the president of the United States, you got to bring the heat like that. You have to be that Mark Twain, Will Rogers kind of level. So I was never there, but him as a reality star, I thought was hilarious because you can imagine a bloated guy wearing the Batman cowl, jumping rooftop to rooftop, Ivanka. So I had this joke ready to go, man. Second time on stage, I'm feeling it. Yeah. The guy came on before me. So this is about 12:30 a.m. And this is Burbank, by the way. Like, so 12:30 a.m. and he has this whole bit about how Robin Williams was weak for killing himself, right? Which was it still is tasteless so many years later. But the fact that it was the day before or the 2 days before, it was what they call in comedy walking the room. Like people were just kind of done. They're like, you know what? Yeah, it's 12:30. This guy isn't funny. I'm going. And everyone kind of left. And it was Burbank. So I don't know if you guys have been to Burbank, California. It's a sleepy town. Like at 10:30 during the week, the streets are like ghost town. Maybe 11 on Fridays, but it's just a ghost town. So there's no hope of like going outside and like pulling more people in. This was not like New York or even Sunset Boulevard. There was no activity. So 12:30 a.m., the room was walked because this guy had this inappropriate material. And here I am with my little like Donald Trump joke, right? Like this is like, again, I stress pre-presidential Donald Trump joke going like, oh man, this is bad. This is really bad. But you got to stick with it, man. Because you said yourself, second time doing comedy. I got on stage at 12:45. 3 people, 1, 2, 3 people, and the bartender, 4 people heard me with this bit about Batman. Never did that joke again because it wasn't funny. Even if it wasn't about the president, it still wasn't funny. 1, 2, the vibe was already altered by a comedy legend's death being ridiculed by a guy at an open mic on a Wednesday night in Burbank, California. And 3, it was kind of like, okay, here is the most potent thing of what you wanted. You wanted a show that was good to validate that you're funny. You got a show that says, hey, bro, you thought you were funny, but you're not. Sit on that. And I'm so glad. I've bombed before. I have bombed in the classical sense of me telling jokes and no one has laughed. But I always felt from that point on, bombing is a state of mind. Because there's shows where I will kill. People are laughing, crying, high five. Woo! I'll get in the car. I'm like, that wasn't pretty good. That wasn't good at all. Or there's some shows where I'm like, oh, I told that joke technically the way I want to. No one laughed, but I'll get in the car and go, you know what? That was a good performance. I didn't get the laughs I want, but I can go. But I can't think of all the times I bombed. And that means I didn't do well. I didn't feel good about it. I want to jump off a cliff. That was definitely, if not the worst bombing, that was definitely top 3 because the whole vibe of it all. There was like the come down on Sunday. It was the room being emptied out with inappropriate humor. It was my jokes themselves not being that good. Because frankly, if Donald Trump really was Batman, he would probably like redevelop Gotham and build another building and his name on it. It would be kind of weird. And on top of that, it was like, man, maybe comedy isn't that easy. Maybe maybe it is a grind. Maybe you got to go out there and grind out and stuff like that. And so I bring this story up to you and myself today, January 4th, 2020. I loved it. I love comedy. I'm still working on it. I felt like the gigs have slowed up a bit. And I'm still writing though, the albums are out, but maybe this would be the vigors I needed to go out there and have that little bit of a renaissance. I always say it's calm before the storm. Maybe year 6, year 7, year 8. That's where I start getting the push into being that next level, whatever that level may be. I'm not trying to say I'm going from here to Netflix, but just whatever that next level will be, I'm going to do it. So that's why I wanted to share this story with you today. So August 10th, 2014, milestone for your boy Flopito. First time I was on stage, first time performing comedy, and I've been able to do a lot. Comedy's given me a lot of things. I've got to perform in Arizona, got to perform in Toronto, New York, all that good stuff. So it's been a lot. It's given me a lot, and I wanted to keep giving. But that's the first time I ever did comedy. You want to hear more comedy type shows? You want to hear more serious shows? You want to hear shows about wrestling or comics? You let me know. The show is called Wassup Flobo. If you were watching this, you're passing by, please comment, subscribe. I need subscribers. I need them. And if you want a question, holla at me on Twitter at Flobo Boyce, on Instagram at Flopito or DJ Flopito if you're looking for a booking, yeah. Or my website at flopito.com. That's FLOPITO.com.